You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Leonard, and on Convenience Matters, we talk about things that matter to convenience stores. If they matter to convenience stores, they matter to pretty much everybody else because we get about 160 million customers every day at convenience stores.
And I am Donovan Woods with the Fuels Institute in NACS, and I'm just excited to be here, Jeff. I'm excited about our guest, and I'm ready to go.
Well, Donovan, we have something unique today. We have never had somebody who's been in People magazine.
We're big time.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, this must be the George Clooney episode.
That's why I'm here.
It's maybe next week. We'll see. But we have Frank Beard, who his title is Analyst and Evangelist for the Convenience Store Retail Trends. I got some of that right. But also People magazine feature. And we're going to talk to Frank about how trends start, both in how do you spread them when you're doing them on your own and going viral, and what do you do in your current job now. So, Frank, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, guys.
I got most of your title right, but your title right now is pretty clever. You talk about how do you evangelize and also provide analysis of the fuels industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I've really got two facets of what I'm doing. You know, on the evangelist side, I do a lot of communicating convenience store trends to the general public because you know as well as I do that public perception is lagging a bit behind where the industry really is today. And just to give you an example, you know, we at Gas Buddy had leveraged our ratings and reviews data to put together a list of the top-rated gas station restroom brands in all 50 states. So where I was able to really come in on that is I went on a number of radio programs and really discussed just what's going on with the state of the industry and how so many leading companies see restroom quality as a central part of their business, and just communicate that into a way that really makes sense for everybody. And I mean, it's a lot of fun.
And your story is so cool. When we talked to you last on a podcast, you kind of took us through your whole experience. And for those of you not familiar, what Frank did was he had a challenge called 30 Days of Gas Station Food, where for 30 days you ate nothing, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. Everything was purchased at a convenience store / gas station, and you had a great experience through that. But what Donovan and I would really like to talk about is not that experience, which wound up being very interesting in terms of the health benefits and talking about all the healthy options you found on the road, but take us through the idea of essentially going viral. How did you cook up this idea? Did you think it would, for lack of, as the kids say, blow up the way it did?
You know, I didn't have any expectations about it when I started, but the whole idea really came about out of a legitimate, authentic desire to disprove a myth about healthy eating. I continued to see, as somebody who had previously been very overweight and had lost that weight years ago, that there's this message that eating out is part of the problem, which, of course, is rather silly, but we're in a world where 1/3 of Americans' calories come from outside of the home. So it seemed to me that rather than pointing fingers at that as part of the problem, we should find a way to make it part of the solution. And since I was traveling so much, I had to eat out. And I was fine. I was great. So I thought, all right, how can I demonstrate this? And I thought that the most clever and most difficult challenge would just be to spend a month eating at gas stations. So I think why it connected with people so well is, you know, I wasn't trying to manufacture anything. I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was just doing an authentic experiment to prove a point, and it was real. And it also connected with people as well because, as I said, no one really talks about this. We just point the finger at the fast food restaurants, at the gas stations. And then what's really going on is we have convenience stores partnering with the Partnership for Healthy America. We have convenience stores selling fruit, veggies, healthy made-to-order options. And that's really what I found, and that's what was so interesting through the whole experience.
You know, Jeff, excuse me, when you mentioned going out and you didn't know how it would end, when you didn't know how it would end, I'm trying to think of it as the Fuels Institute. We're a smaller brand within NACS. If we wanted to try something like this where it was risky, we didn't know how it would end, How could we do that? I mean, it seems like for a company's brand, that could be a little bit too much of a risk. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be really careful, of course, if you're a larger company and you're doing something like that. I guess I don't have a clear-cut answer on that, to be honest, but I mean, you don't want to risk too much, but I think at the end of the day, I think people are willing to embrace something that's a little bit authentic and a little bit real. I mean, we're so used to being bombarded with these campaigns that are always so clearly trying to sell you something, and I think people really in this day and age do crave authenticity.
So when did you realize you started your challenge? How many days in? I think one of the things is you started on Reddit and putting posts on Reddit. What happened a couple days in? Didn't all of a sudden the media pay attention and it became much bigger than you possibly imagined?
Yeah, this blew up very quickly. It started off with Reddit. They have a weight loss forum. I wanted to engage that community, and it got a tremendous amount of attention on there and really started to spread. I mean, it's such a big online community. You never know who's reading what you're writing. And so before long, I was getting requests from news media. I know NACS had reached out. Various individuals within the convenience store industry had reached out to me personally. And that's where I started to see early on that there's actually something here, and I really need to figure out what that is and where to take it. So in the end, what I was able to do is, rather than stopping there, I looked at, all right, what resources are at my disposal, what opportunities do exist, and I saw that since I was traveling so much, I had a fantastic opportunity to have on-the-ground, in-store experience with convenience stores nationwide. So I was able to visit over 1,000 convenience stores in 24 states and go inside these and look at everything, the restroom quality, the way customers are being reached at the pump with advertisements and promotions, and get a real sense of what's working out there and what's not working.
Wow, that seems like a lot of effort. I guess that's the evangelist part of your title there now. But
well, and see, that really helps with the analyst side too, because what I'm really doing on the analyst side is, Gas Buddy has really two, soon to be 3 lines or 3 units in our company. First, of course, is we're an app that, even though this is a 17-year-old company, which a lot of people don't know, but our app has approximately 70 million downloads, total downloads as of this time. And we introduced our ratings and reviews feature last year in September, and as of now, I mean, we have over 10 million combined ratings and reviews. So our first thing we're really doing is, we leverage that consumer engagement and advertising sponsorships and all that. But where I come in is we're also taking this consumer data and packaging it into a business intelligence package called Gas Buddy Business Pages, which essentially allows retailers to, be informed about their business, respond to reviews, compare and contrast themselves to their competitors, promote loyalty programs. So I'm taking this data and working with our team and helping communicate it in a way that makes sense to retailers. And just the things that we find, like we put out our foot traffic report for Q1 of 2017. We analyzed with Cubic 23.5 million consumer trips to the pumps and convenience stores between January 31st and March 31st of this year, and found, for example, more than half of Gas Buddies are visiting locations within 6 miles of their homes or places of employment. So what that's really telling me is, well, retailers have an opportunity to leverage that local community and figure out what is it that they want and how do I deliver this and personalize my store. And so there's a lot of interesting things that I'm able to come in and really help communicate, help work with, and that on-the-ground experience was invaluable for this purpose.
So do you have advice tagging along with what Donovan was saying a few minutes ago? Are there opportunities that retailers or businesses can think of to do something, maybe a test in terms of trying to create a buzz around something? Is this just kind of a skunkworks type operation where maybe you get a couple people around to just throw out ideas, or do you just try something and then say, there's something here. Here are the 3 best places to communicate it. What might be a good approach that you'd suggest? I
mean, you definitely want to have a brainstorming session and see what you're able to come up with. But it seems to me that all of the retailers tend to have their own kind of personality. You look at a company like Sheetz, for example, and how they conduct themselves on Twitter. It's just fun. There's something about the brand that is so fun. And, so the question would be, well, how do we leverage this and do something more with it? So I think you need to really, really think that through, but I think you need to be true to what your company brand is and be true to what that personality is. The sort of things that a company like Buc-ee's can do, for example, are a little bit different than what some others are able to do because they just have a different culture. So again, I think you just have to be really authentic in who you are and own that. But yeah, be willing to experiment a little bit.
You mentioned authentic, so the key word that I'm hearing there is honesty. Realizing, like you said, who you are. Don't be afraid of what you are. Actually go for it. I remember having the Gas Buddy app in years past, and really I only went there for the price of fuel. Where can I get the cheapest price? But now, just hearing you talk about this, looking at your app as it is now, there's more reasons to go there. So a customer would have not fun, but more engagement with the app itself. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, completely. Essentially what's happened here is we have an understanding that consumers are really looking for what we call the perfect pit stop. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're looking for that cheap gas, of course, which is a critical part of what's going on here, but they're also looking for clean restrooms. They're looking for good food, bright outdoor lighting so you feel safe at night if you're stopping. And so with this understanding, we've sort of evolved and expanded what we're doing. September 2016, we launched the ratings and reviews feature. So in a way that's kind of like Yelp, consumers are able to go into our app and rate a store on everything from the quality of the restrooms to the customer service, the lighting, overall experience, everything, and leave a review. We find that the number one most negative review comes from dirty restrooms. But then we're finding as well that 69% of users don't want to visit a store with less than 3 out of 5 stars. So you see a situation where dirty restrooms are causing a proverbial hole in the bucket, leaking business. But convenience stores are about the total package, and it's really that understanding that we're moving forward with.
Frank, if we better knew how to use all the sound effects at our disposal here, you probably would have heard something there, a flush or something, but we'll figure it out. I'd hit something and it'd be a bell, so we don't want to do
Post-production.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. That's the standard.
Well, let's be honest, convenience store restrooms look a lot better than they used to.
Agreed.
Not a lot of keys attached to hubcaps anymore.
Yes, and you also regularly contribute to Nax Daily. We see your columns appear irregularly in Nax Daily, and one of the ones I really enjoyed reading recently is you talked about drive-through, and you talked about how other channels are renowned for drive-through, but you found that convenience stores were the most convenient.
Oh, yes. This really also came from my travel experience. I had a coworker in a previous company who he and I debated this endlessly, and he thought drive-thrus were quicker, and I thought convenience stores were quicker. And I know he'll still argue this till he's red in the face with me, but I decided to go test it because I said, I've been in so many long drive-thru lines where I thought, why didn't I just go to the gas station? And so I went out and tested it here in Des Moines, Iowa, where I'm based out of. And I just put a simple experiment together. 3 QSRs in the morning, 3 C-stores in the morning, between just the morning breakfast hours, and I would test the time it took to drive off of the road, grab one breakfast sandwich, and get back on the road. So the actual time that it cost me. And I found that convenience stores were 2.74 times quicker. And there's a number of reasons for that. A drive-thru at the end of the day functions extremely well if it's not busy. The problem is we go when it's busy. Especially that 11 to 1 p.m. time, but even in the mornings, it's terribly busy. So you're waiting in line, and if there's any mishaps, if they're out of anything, if you get to the window and find out that the sandwich you ordered is not prepared and you have to pull forward, that's the kind of thing that makes you late to work. With a convenience store, it's the most convenient location. You don't have to drive around parking lots or through side streets. You pull in, you walk in, grab a sandwich, pay, and leave. Oftentimes there's 2 or 3 cashiers, no single file lines, and it's quick. So it was really interesting to see some actual data behind that.
Yeah, and I think someday we'll be like, we'll hire some of those peanut vendors at baseball stadiums that just kind of like throw the breakfast sandwich and just open your window, prepay, goes right through, and you're on your way. A little bit faster.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, maybe a little messier, and maybe there's some other legal
Got to
issues.
give and take.
But,
Give and take.
So what are some things that you're thinking about, Frank, in testing next? Are you looking at any more adventures in celebrating convenience stores and going on journeys and writing up things about our industry?
Yeah, definitely. May have a few more adventures coming up. A few things can't exactly be announced yet, but I do plan to keep traveling to stores around the country. I've got a few markets that I want to get into that I haven't really, particularly explored as much. I'm going to try to get up to Maine here soon and a few others, but really just want to continue to really get out there and see what's going on. And right now, I'd like to especially see a lot more of the independent convenience stores. I've got such a good understanding of many of the large brands, but as well as I do, there's a ton of really interesting independent brands that are kind of flying under the radar and doing some pretty innovative things.
So I'm curious, just as a consumer myself, if I'm driving through, I'm not using the mobile app Gas Buddy, what are some of the things you look for to pull into your particular retail station? Is there any key things I should look for to say that's probably got a clean bathroom or the food there is probably pretty good?
Yeah, there's definitely a few things. Curb appeal is one of the strongest indicators of what you're going to find in the store, obviously. It just seems like your stores that look a little bit newer, a little bit more modern. Doesn't necessarily have to be the building. It can be the logo itself. Someone may have bought an older building but may have a phenomenal store inside. But you just see that more modern logos, more attractive curb appeal, clean parking lots, just a general standard of quality that stands out from the road is a tremendous indicator. But some brands have really taken it a step further. If you look at the PJ Fresh stores from Pilot Flying J, they actually put a sign. It's got to be about 15 feet wide. It's just massive. But they put this photo on the side of the building with the text that says "really fresh" right here. And it has a picture zoomed in on a sandwich with some lettuce on it. And it's just one of the biggest quality signals I've ever seen on a convenience store because you know exactly what you're going to get when you see that. There's going to be something good inside. And sure enough, clean restrooms, nice building. Whenever someone is really good about quality with one thing, it just seems like everything's high quality. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think we'll agree with you on that. Now, at the top of the show, I started out by mentioning you were in People Magazine. I may as well finish by asking about People Magazine. And in this happened earlier this year in 2017, right before the Partnership for Healthy America Summit. You gave a talk on stage about convenience stores and how they've upped the ante. But there was also a nice article about you in People Magazine, which is not something that many people in our industry can say. How did that come about, and what was your feedback from being in People?
Well, actually, I've got to thank somebody I work with for that. She is an amazing person when it comes to pitching stories, and may have oversold me a little bit. And of course, I'm trying to be funny, but no. She basically set this up. Someone expressed interest in it, and so we followed through. And they were just really interested in the story of, in particular, how I had lost a little bit of weight during the month of the experiment, which wasn't really the whole focus of it, but it was kind of a nice cherry on the top that I was able to say, well, I didn't gain weight eating at convenience stores, because that's something a lot of people assume when you tell them this story, and that really helps kind of change their perspective a little bit. So we did an interview with People and shared my story, and they seemed to really like it. Similarly, Men's Health ran an article not shortly after, which was interesting to me, since I've actually read that magazine multiple times in the past.
Well, we have 2.7 million people working in our industry, so maybe there's some ideas for anybody out there that wants to share a story about a people business. Frank Beard, thank you once again for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, guys.
And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information, go to nacsonline.com.